Here are the top stories for today, July 12, 2021. A milestone for the vaccine program. Over 13 million Filipinos have been vaccinated against COVID-19. Health experts nix for now the use of booster shots to ramp up protection against COVID-19. All in a day's work, the PCOO defends its coverage of events attended by President Duterte. And about 600,000 Filipinos who lost their right to vote register again for the 2022 elections. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Our top story for today, the World Health Organization, or WHO, lauds the country for doing a good job on its COVID-19 response. WHO representative to the Philippines, Dr. Rabindra Abiyasing, said the number of people having died from COVID-19 in the Philippines is comparatively lower than many other countries, despite its very limited capacities and open-door policy for returning Filipinos.
Pinuri po ng World Health Organization representative to the Philippines, Dr. Rabindra Abiyasing, ang ating naging tugon sa coronavirus kahit na limitado ang ating resources. Dagdag pa ni Dr. Abiyasing, kahit na limitado ang kapasidad, ang bilang ng namatay sa COVID-19 sa Pilipinas ay mas mababa kumpara sa mga bansang mas mataas na kapasidad at resources. Isang middle-income country ang Pilipinas, kaya huwag namang mag-expect ng first world type of response. The Philippines has done a good job, wika po ng WHO representative sa Pilipinas.
Presidential spokesperson Secretary Harry Roque clarified that children in areas under GCQ with heightened restrictions are not yet allowed to go out. He also said that children are still not allowed at the malls. Laguna and Cavite have been placed under GCQ with heightened restrictions, while Metro Manila, Rizal, and Bulacan have been put under GCQ with some restrictions until July 15.
Ano ba ho ang mga outdoor areas kung saan pinapayagan ng mga bata? Parks, playgrounds, beaches, biking at hiking trails, outdoor tourist sites at attractions ayon sa Department of Tourism, outdoor non-contact sports courts at venues at alfresco dining establishments. Hindi pa rin pinapayagan na pumasok ng malls at iba pang mixed-use indoor-outdoor buildings at facilities ang mga bata. Hindi naman po natin i-compromise ang kaligtasan ng ating mga bata. Kailangan pa rin mababantayan sila ng mga adult at kailangan ring mag-observe ng minimum public health standards.
Way forward to achieve population protection, the country has already administered over 13 million jabs. Of the number, Health Undersecretary Mirna Cabotaje says around 3.5 million Filipinos are now fully vaccinated, while 9.6 million received their first doses. She also said that 96% of the master-listed priority sector are already vaccinated. However, Cabotaje says only 30% of seniors availed of the free jabs. She said authorities are already addressing the issue on vaccine hesitancy.
Ang ginagawa po ng Kagawaran ng Kalusugan, katuwang po ang mga lokal na pamahalaan at ang ating mga private sector, yung tinatawag nating tutok A2. So nagkaroon na po ng mga town hall meetings para maibahagi ang importansya ng ating pagbabakuna ng senior citizen. Nag-house to house na po yung ibang mga local government units. Yung iba pa nga po ay nagbabakuna din sa mga bedridden sa kanilang mga bahay. Tapos together with DILG, pinapamadali natin. We are making the registration easier through the barangay officials para hindi mahirapan yung ating mga senior citizen na magpa-register.
Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez Jr. says there would be no restriction in the use of government-procured jabs. This as the country received 132,200 doses of the Russian-made Sputnik V vaccine on Friday and another 37,800 doses on Saturday night. Galvez said 40% to 50% of the Sputnik V vaccines would go to the areas under the National Capital Region +8, composed of Metro Manila, Cavite, Laguna, Pampanga, Batangas, Rizal, Bulacan, Metro Davao, and Metro Cebu. The rest of the vaccines would be distributed to other cities with readily available cold chain facilities, particularly in Ilocos, Cagayan Valley, Central Luzon, and Calabarzon. Meanwhile, the 1.5 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccines which arrived Friday are allocated as the second dose. Galvez said another 500,000 doses of the jabs will be deployed to areas with a large population of senior citizens and adults with comorbidities. All COVID-19 vaccines will be used before the expiry dates. Vaccine Czar Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. says the short shelf life of COVID-19 jabs would not be a cause for concern because these will be administered immediately. Galvez said the local government units increased their vaccination rate upon receipt of supplies. As such, he is confident that as much as 2 million jabs can be administered per week. Meanwhile, Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergere says there is no recommendation yet on the use of booster shots for fully vaccinated individuals. The country currently logged almost 1.4 million recoveries or 94.8% of the overall cases since the pandemic began.
Ang booster shots po ay wala pang masyadong sufficient evidence na lumalabas. Especially dito po sa mga platforms o bakuna na meron tayo sa ating bansa. Katulad ng Sinovac, ng Sputnik V. Kailangan po natin maging maingat, doble ingat sa pag-adapt ng ganitong practices kasi kailangan po natin masiguro na magiging safe ito para sa ating populasyon.
Baguio City addresses the need to increase vaccine confidence among residents. Meanwhile, Cebu is experiencing another surge in COVID-19 cases. The details from Joyce Cudis.
Health officials in Central Visayas region noted an upward trend on their COVID-19 cases in the last 4 weeks. The Department of Health says there is a need to vaccinate those who will be more affected by the infection. Dr. Eugenia Mercedes Cañal, the head of the DOH 7 Epidemiology and Surveillance Unit, said inequitable and uneven distribution of vaccines could be a reason for the recent surge. She added that non-compliance with public health and social measures contributed to the increase in COVID-19 cases. National Task Force Against COVID-19 Deputy Chief Implementer and Testing Czar, Vince Dizon, said they are closely monitoring the situation in Central Visayas.
Tuloy-tuloy po ang suporta natin sa lahat ng mga area na medyo tumataas ang kaso. No, tuloy-tuloy po yan ang ating pagpapadala ng mga testing kits, ng mga pag-hire ng mga additional contact tracer, pagdadagdag ng mga gamot na kinakailangan nila para sa treatment, remdesivir, tocilizumab, dexamethasone, pati na rin ang mga high-flow nasal cannulas na pinapadala ng DOH sa mga area na tumataas ang kaso.
Meanwhile, more than 100,000 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine have so far been administered in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao or BIRMM. It covers the cities of Cotabato, Lamitan, and Marawi, as well as the provinces of Maguindanao, Lanao del Sur, Basilan, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, and the 63 villages in North Cotabato Province. And in Baguio City, the local government says it will not hesitate to declare wide-scale lockdowns if residents continue to ignore the minimum health standards. This after the city government ordered the lockdown of 3 sub-villages in Barangay Irisan with several residents not complying with health protocols. The order will be for a week and will not include the APORs or authorized persons outside of residences. Meanwhile, health experts say the majority of COVID-19 deaths in Baguio City are unvaccinated persons. 90% of the city's severe cases are said to be unvaccinated senior citizens. Authorities say they will continue their campaign to locate and convince individuals reluctant to get vaccinated. For the PNA Newsroom, I am Joyce Goodies.
News around the globe, Vietnam reports a high number of new COVID-19 infections. Vietnam has almost 2,000 new cases in the daily tally on Sunday, which includes 8 imported cases and 1,945 locally transmitted infections. The ongoing fourth wave of infections began in April, pushing the overall national tally since the beginning of the pandemic to almost 30,000. Vietnam is currently imposing movement restrictions for 14 days starting today. Still to come, government troops in Camarines Sur honor the fatalities of the C-130 crash in Sulu. All in a day's work, the PCOO defends its coverage of events attended by President Duterte. Details ahead, this is the PNA Newsroom. The COVID-19 pandemic has greatly changed our lives for the worse. Lives and jobs were lost and economies reached a meltdown. Thanks to the arrival of safe and effective vaccines, we are one step closer to normalcy. It's time to do our part, get vaccinated for our safety and for our recovery.
If you are there in that community, go there and have yourself vaccinated by any of the vaccines available. They are all potent, they are all effective.
I would like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
Vaccines work. The Philippine Army held simultaneous wreath-laying ceremonies and memorial services in honor of their fallen comrades who perished during the tragic C-130 plane crash. A survivor is thankful for being alive as he vows to serve in his hometown. The details from Marita Moahe.
The 9th Infantry Division of the Philippine Army in Camarines Sur joined the nationwide simultaneous wreath-laying and flag retreat ceremonies to honor the soldiers who perished in the July 4 plane crash in Sulu. Meanwhile, a simultaneous interfaith memorial service was also held at the headquarters of 4th Infantry Division in Cagayan de Oro City, led by its new commanding officer, Major General Romeo Bronner Jr. Boarding at the Villamor Air Base in Pasay City, Bronner and his family were dropped off in Cagayan de Oro City before the ill-fated C-130 plane proceeded with its journey to Sulu. The fallen soldiers were honored with the traditional 21-gun salute. The caskets carrying the remains of 5 fallen soldiers arrived this morning at the Philippine Air Force Technical Operations Group 10 in Lumbia, Cagayan de Oro City. In other news, one of the soldiers who survived the plane crash is thankful that God has kept him alive. Sergeant Al-Amin Sahibuddin, a native of Jolo, Sulu, said the Lord has granted his wish to serve in his home province. He is among the 14 soldiers recuperating at the Heroes Ward of Camp Navarro General Hospital in Zamboanga City. He said he was lucky he did not lose consciousness despite the impact of the crash. He even managed to pull some of the survivors to a safe distance and removed their smoldering uniforms. Sahibuddin sustained injuries on his hand and his hair got burned. He meanwhile expressed sympathy to the families of the soldiers who died. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Marita Muaje.
The Philippine National Police is preparing for a massive information campaign on the use of body-worn cameras. PNP Chief General Guillermo Eleazar made the directive after the Supreme Court en banc issued a resolution that includes the rules on the use of body-worn cameras in the execution of warrants. Eleazar said this will soon be part of the police operational procedures throughout the country. The PNP launched the body-worn camera system on June 4 to ensure transparency and legitimacy of law enforcement operations. The national government vows to continue to step up efforts to eradicate hunger following a survey that showed that nearly half of Filipinos said they felt poor. Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles acknowledged the recent Social Weather Station survey, which also found that only 17% of Filipino families rated themselves as not poor and 33% are borderline poor. In November 2020, the percentage of people who said they were poor was 48%. Nograles, who is also chair of the Interagency Task Force on Zero Hunger, said the figures were expected given the limitations in livelihood as a result of prevailing pandemic restrictions. However, he said the formation of the Zero Hunger Task Force and efforts by the Department of Agriculture may have helped prevent self-rated food poverty numbers in 2020 from increasing. Last Wednesday, Nograles expressed hope the next administration will carry programs and projects started under the Duterte administration, including the country's national food policy, which aims to eliminate hunger in the country by the year 2030. The Presidential Communications Operations Office, or PCOO, brushed off allegations of partisan use of government resources as it maintains that it is its job to cover all activities participated by the President. Laid Kabagani has the story.
The Presidential Communications Operations Office answered allegations that government resources are being used to cover President Rodrigo Duterte's activities. PCOO Undersecretary Lorraine Maribadoy said that it is their job to cover all events the President attends. She noted that the PCOO takes pride in Duterte being the most visible president in the country's history and that broadcasting Duterte's events contributed to his high trust and approval ratings. Badoy reacted to Bayan Muna Party List Representative Carlos Isagani Zarate's remark, slamming the broadcast of the President's July 6 meeting with officials of PDP Laban as an unabashed use of government time and resources for partisan political activity. Meanwhile, more plantilla or regular positions may soon be available for contract of service workers at the PCOO. Undersecretary Christian Ablan said the PCOO has requested additional plantilla positions from the Department of Budget and Management after confirming a 2020 Commission on Audit report that the PCOO hired 375 COS personnel. Ablan said that some COS employees will also have to undergo special civil service exams this month to qualify for plantilla positions. He also defended anew the need to hire more COS personnel to take charge of the new government programs and projects that emerged during the COVID-19 pandemic. Meanwhile, the PCOO and the Duterte administration's commitment in delivering truthful news and information to the public had been showcased in the Laging Handa docu-series episode 7 entitled Ang Pamana Working PCOO. Communications Secretary Martin Andanar said he applied everything that he learned about traditional as well as new media to reform the PCOO and its attached agencies. He expressed confidence that everything accomplished here in PCOO can be repeated. Duterte's first executive order was the creation of Freedom of Information, which ensures that the public has access to public documents and transactions of the government. The Office of the President, together with the PCOO, also created the Presidential Task Force on Media Security to protect the life, liberty, and security of the media workers in the country. Laging Handa Docu 3.0 Episode 7 was aired on Sunday at 9:30 p.m. on PTV and IBC 13. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Laid Kabagani.
In our business news, the Philippine office market appears ready to take off and resume its pre-pandemic growth trajectory with the increase in demand from the business process outsourcing or BPO sector. In a study by Lichu Property Consultants, demand for office space nationwide grew by 38% from 122,000 square meters in the first quarter of 2021 to 169,000 in the second quarter. As of the first half of 2021, demand is now at 291,000 square meters. The BPO industry accounted for 54% of second quarter 2021 demand. It grew by 160% from the first quarter's 35,000 square meters, driven by economic stability in the West. Investor sentiment improved with the rollout of COVID-19 vaccines and the passage of Senate Bill 2232, which clarified tax concerns of Filipinos' online gaming operators. With the reopening of international borders, POGOs are expected to revive their interest in the Philippine office market and further prime economic recovery. Up next, about 600,000 Filipinos who lost their right to vote register again for the 2022 elections. And Boracay works on a rebrand as a haven for cycling enthusiasts. Back after a quick break, stay with the PNA Newsroom. You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. Some 600,000 deactivated voters have registered again to be able to participate in next year's elections. Comelec Commissioner Rowena Guanzon said these voters are part of the more than 7 million voters who were deactivated for failure to participate in 2 consecutive polls. The nationwide voter registration is ongoing and will run until September 30. Applicants are instructed to file their application for registration before the Office of Election Officer in the city or municipality where they intend to vote. Local Comelec offices are open Mondays to Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. The poll body earlier said it has achieved the target of 4 million new registrants. At least 20 former members of the CPP-NPA from Central Luzon received hope to return to society's mainstream and live peacefully with their families. The Akap Kapatid program was launched on Thursday in the region to prepare former rebels for reintegration into society. The long term will focus on the general welfare of the rebel returnees, on how they can return to the community and live peacefully and sustainably. Aside from lectures, the former rebels were also given grocery packs through the PNP's Barangayanihan Libreng Ayuda. Brigadier General Narciso Domingo, Police Regional Office Deputy Regional Director for Administration, thanked the rebels who chose to surrender and urged them to convince others to join them by surrendering to the government. He assured that the Regional Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-LCAC, would continue to assist rebel returnees in their peaceful and successful reintegration into society. In our news overseas, U.S. drug maker Pfizer has revealed its plan to develop a booster dose of its coronavirus vaccine to better protect people from growing variants. Pfizer and its partner German firm BioNTech said a third dose may be needed within 6 to 12 months after full vaccination to maintain the highest levels of protection. They expected a decline in vaccine efficacy over time and the continued emergence of the variants. But the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration insisted that fully vaccinated Americans do not need a booster shot at this time. The two agencies added that people who are fully vaccinated are protected from severe illness and even death, including from emerging variants such as the highly contagious Delta variant. About 47.8% of the United States population is fully vaccinated against COVID-19. Meanwhile, in Cuba, the Center for State Control of Medicines, Equipment, and Medical Devices has given emergency use authorization to Abdala, one of the 5 vaccines against COVID-19 being developed by Cuban scientists. The vaccine, developed by the Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology, has an efficacy rate of 92% in 3 doses administered at 14-day intervals. The Cuban Ministry of Health says more than 7 million doses of Cuban vaccines have been administered and just over 3 million Cubans have received at least 1 dose as participants in clinical trials or emergency intervention. In sports, the Tokyo segment of the Olympic torch relay kicked off with a small ceremony held behind closed doors on Friday. With just 2 weeks to go until the start of the Games, the flame was handed to Tokyo Governor Yuriko Koike at the Komazawa Olympic Park Stadium. The event was held a day after Japan announced that no spectators will be allowed at the Tokyo Olympics due to the worsening COVID-19 situation in the country. The Olympics will be held from July 23 to August 8, followed by the Paralympic Games from August 24 to September 5. Boracay Island is being rebranded as a sustainable destination and the next haven for cyclists. The Department of Tourism, or DOT, is eyeing to launch new tour packages in September. The DOT is confident its soon-to-be-launched tourism program will boost arrivals and contribute to Boracay's goal of attracting quality tourists. Malay Tourism Officer Gil de los Santos said Boracay has always been a bike-friendly destination. De los Santos said bikers from Metro Manila could access Boracay via ship sailing to Caticlan. The same protocols will apply, including negative RT-PCR results, pre-booked transportation and accommodation, and coordination with the local government unit for QR codes. Aside from the main white beach, tourists could also access the less crowded Boracay New Coast, mixed-use leisure and resort development where the iconic Boracay Keyhole is. It is located in Barangay Yapak, overlooking the Sibuyan Sea and among the most biker-friendly spots in the area. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. A milestone for the vaccine program, over 13 million Filipinos have been vaccinated against COVID-19. Health experts nix for now the use of booster shots to ramp up protection against COVID-19. All in a day's work, the PCOO defends its coverage of events attended by President Duterte. And about 600,000 Filipinos who lost their right to vote register again for the 2022 elections. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear your face masks and face shields, wash your hands often, practice safe physical distancing, go out only for essential reasons, and get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day. Stay safe, everyone.